on TBML, a very critical component, largely not addressed, but very important as we seek to diminish the funds available to our adversaries. We now have a virtual presentation from Senator Marco Rubio, member of the United States Senate, member of the Foreign Relations Committee, and Senator Rubio, we welcome your comments at this time. Thank you.
As the ranking member of the Senate Committee on Foreign Relations, Subcommittee on overseeing the Western Hemisphere, I remain committed to crafting policies that advance the security and prosperity of America and our partners and our allies in our hemisphere. The last several years have underscored the importance of inter-American partnerships and stable allies who uphold democratic governance across the region. In particular, the coronavirus pandemic has served as a reminder of how fragile both our national infrastructure and our supply chains can be, but it also reaffirmed the critical benefits that derive from close ties between democracies. Well over a dozen of our partners and allies across Latin America and the Caribbean are now set to receive more than 14 million vaccine doses, thanks to the U.S., and our nation remains committed to standing with our friends as well as to work to beat the COVID-19 pandemic. While the first lessons of the virus were not to forget national resilience as a virtue in our policymaking, the tail end of the pandemic has also made clear the importance of maintaining coordinated efforts and strong relationships with like-minded neighbors. But for all the transnational victories that have come as a result of our deep ties with Brazil, Colombia, Panama, Mexico, and others, our hemisphere has also seen the consequences of authoritarian regimes who oppress their citizens and violate basic human rights. In the case of Venezuela, for example, its citizens have suffered the consequences of having a narco-dictator whose corruption and brutality has caused many citizens to choose to die at home rather than visit unclean medical facilities that lack running water or supplies. In Cuba, where the island's repressors take pride in a so-called free healthcare system, they are denying important surgeries and procedures since hospitals remain overrun. The variation in experiences over the last year makes clear how important accountable and democratic governance remains. It is critical that U.S. policy towards Latin America and the Caribbean prioritizes democratic values, security cooperation, and economic prosperity. The objective of this conference is to strengthen the bilateral ties between our democracies and to build upon our security partnership in order to address the challenges we are currently facing in our hemisphere. As authoritarians around the world seek to exploit any occurrence for their own gain, the United States must remain a committed ally to our democratic friends in the region. We must ensure Beijing's debt-trap diplomacy, faulty equipment, and false promises do not leave nations in our region beholden to the Chinese Communist government for decades to come. The Western Hemisphere is also no stranger to cybersecurity threats posed by hostile foreign governments. As we continue towards strengthening the region together, we must stress the importance of creating a strong network of allies. We will continue to be exploited by malign actors if we do not utilize resources to collectively promote cybersecurity preparedness and mitigate risks. As we continue to advance technologically, we run the risk of exposing our nation to greater vulnerability. It is critical that as this technological growth occurs, we continue to engage in the development of cyberspace security. This is a realm occupied by nation-states large and small, companies, telecommunication firms, and more that are creating complications and ambiguity. We must also unite in countering the threat posed by Chinese state-backed or directed companies, including Huawei, ZTE, and Hikvision. Because of the vast array of issues related to cyberspace, there are no concrete norms or streamlined processes that we can fall back on. As leaders in the region, it is very likely that we will see cyber attacks that exploit our democracies. The unconventionality of cyber attacks require us to work together to improve our cyber defense efforts across the region and around the world. Our adversaries seek to create discord, but with a united regional front, we can and we will reduce the risks that are posed by these bad actors. In order to achieve stability in our hemisphere, we must remain particularly vigilant about the threats posed by transnational crime and illicit trade. There are countless examples of how destabilizing events in our region can threaten and impact our own security interests. Currently, nations in our hemisphere are enduring one of the most devastating migratory crises in Latin American history as a result of the Maduro regime's man-made crisis. In 2015, Venezuela's population totaled 30 million people. Since then, more than 5.6 million migrants have fled their homeland. Even more concerning are the Maduro regime's links to foreign terrorist organizations such as Hezbollah, the ELN, and the FARC dissidents. There must be a regional response to the threat posed by a narco-dictator and his cronies. Next door in Colombia, one of our strongest regional allies, the Duque administration, faces the constant pressure of left-wing guerrilla groups who seek to undermine the nation's sovereignty and stability. For the sake of Colombia's neighbors, including Brazil and Panama, Peru, Ecuador, and even Venezuela, we must ensure the ELN and the FARC dissidency do not succeed in their aspirations to topple a democratically elected government. The consequences of criminal activity and bad governance, both in our hemisphere and more broadly around the world, too often end up affecting Americans. Nicolás Maduro's narco-dictatorship in Venezuela, for example, has meant a wave of illicit drugs, such as fentanyl, to the United States, only adding to the countless tons that China dumps in American cities each year. Increasingly, Chinese drug lords operate alongside ones throughout Latin America, and it's in our national interest to ensure our neighbors have the resources they need to cut them off.